It's Ivan from the EV Stock Channel here. EV sales from around the world have just come in, and August has been a very interesting month. So let's have a look at what's been happening. Before we start, just remember, all content in this video is our opinion only, and we do not recommend buying or selling any financial instruments. Starting off in the United States, where we can see things have been business as usual in the month of August with 13,000 Model 3 sales, along with the Model X and S and the Nissan Leaf rounding out the top 5. And unlike all other months, we have not got any numbers for the Chevy Bolt for the month of August, and if we did, that would probably be somewhere around the 3rd or 4th place. When looking at Model 3 deliveries, we can see the numbers have been steadily increasing from the start of the year, and Tesla has delivered more than 20,000 Model 3s in 3 out of 4 times in the final month of the quarter. Keep in mind, Tesla achieved a new delivery record in Q2 of 2019 with 95,356 deliveries. And we want to know, is Tesla on pace to beat that record, or are they falling behind? When looking at Model S, we can see that over the first 2 months of Q3, they have delivered 175 more Model S's than over the same period in Q2, and it's great to see the Model S numbers picking back up. Meanwhile, they have 610 more Model X deliveries and 2,600 more Model 3s. So in total, when we compare the first 2 months of the record-breaking Q2 to current Q3 of 2019, Tesla is ahead, delivering 3,400 more vehicles. Staying in the United States, we look at the Audi e-tron, and things are not looking too good as sales have fallen for the 3rd consecutive month. And it's a similar story with the Jaguar I-Pace, which are really struggling and just setting their lowest sales numbers for the year with just 160 sales. To put this number into perspective, that's 5 sales per day in the month of August in the United States for the Jaguar I-Pace. Now, this is pretty bad news for the EV market in general, when you think about it, as the Audi e-tron and the Jaguar I-Pace are fairly decent cars. When other manufacturers consider switching to electric vehicles and see Jaguars and Audi's lackluster sales numbers, they're going to be thinking, if the I-Pace or e-tron can't sell, then how the heck are you going to make something better than that? It's really tough. There's not much chance to compete with Tesla, as Tesla is already working on their 4th and 5th generation of their vehicles, and is the main brand that people want when switching to an electric vehicle. So in my opinion, many other car companies may be scared off by the prospect of trying to compete in the EV market when cars like the Jaguar I-Pace and Audi e-tron have so underperformed, even though everyone knows the future is EVs. So it's an interesting situation and something we'll have to make a whole episode on. However, there is some good news in that Daimler's development chief, Markus Schäfer, has announced that the company has no plans in developing next generation combustion engines, as they'll be focusing on new electric powertrains. Looking at China, the results from July have been out for quite a while. However, the August results have yet to come in, and here's an interesting table that Vincent tweeted, in which he showed that throughout the first 7 months of 2019, Tesla had enjoyed 173% year-over-year growth in sales, and that they are already number 2 amongst all other Chinese EV brands in revenue due to the higher average selling price of their vehicles. And this has all been accomplished with no government subsidies that all the other Chinese-made EV brands enjoy. And yet, almost 22,000 Tesla vehicles sold so far in China. If we were to do a comparison, it would show that China's sales have been down 1,200 from the first month of Q3 compared to that of Q2. Moving on to Europe, and we start off with Norway, in which 1 in every 8 cars sold throughout 2019 has been a Tesla Model 3. For the month of August, we can see that Model 3 sales are in line with previous month 1 and 2 of the quarter. And we expect to see numbers pick up in the month of September as Model 3 standard range has become available in Norway, and deliveries should be arriving this month. When we compare the numbers from July and August to the first 2 months of Q2, we can see that so far Tesla has delivered 468 less Model 3s. However, let's see how September unfolds. It's a similar picture in Sweden, with fairly low numbers of Tesla Model 3s delivered in August. But when you compare the numbers, we can see that they are pretty close to those of Q2, with Tesla delivering 43 less Model 3s throughout the first 2 months. And interestingly, the world's first fossil fuel museum has opened up in Sweden, which is an awesome idea and a place I'd love to visit someday. Next up, the Netherlands, and we can see that August has been a strong month in sales, with 1,180 Tesla Model 3s delivered. Just to mention how strong Tesla sales have been in the Netherlands, consider this: 1 in every 3 EVs sold thus far in 2019 has been a Tesla Model 3. And in news just in, the Model 3 became the #1 selling car in the Netherlands, topping the Volkswagen Polo from the start of January to September 20th. So the Netherlands have become the second country in Europe, following Norway, in which the Model 3 has become the best selling car. And remember, this is not comparing against other electric vehicles, but beating out combustion engine cars. Comparing deliveries, we can see the deliveries are roughly twice as high in Q3 compared to the same point in Q2. So Tesla's definitely on a pace to break a new record for deliveries in a single quarter in the Netherlands. For the first time in this series, we'll be looking at Denmark, and while the numbers are pretty small, we can see that the Tesla Model 3 was the #1 selling EV in August, and easily the best selling EV throughout 2019 as a whole. Looking at Germany, we can see Model 3 sales coming in at 356 for the month of August. When comparing to Q2, the numbers are pretty much the same. And just to mention, it now seems like the leading contender for the location of the European Gigafactory seems to be the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, which is conveniently located right next to Belgium and the Netherlands. However, we still wait for an official announcement. Now for some good news. We've been following the arrival of the Model 3 in the UK, and we finally have some sales numbers from August, in which the Model 3 had 2,082 deliveries and ranked 3rd overall amongst vehicles sold across the United Kingdom. And it's interesting to note that this is the first time that an EV has cracked the top 10 selling models in the UK. And the significance of this is quite high, as the UK is Europe's second largest car market, with the biggest being Germany. We don't have the sales numbers for July, but if sales were at the same rate as they were during August, then that would mean that there would be about 500 Model 3s delivered in that month. However, we did get the news of 2,082 deliveries in the month of August, and we'll be keeping a close eye on the UK in future episodes. Next up, we move on to Australia, in which the first Model 3s were delivered in early September. I actually popped down to a Melbourne delivery location just to see how things were going, and there was a lot of excitement. People were taking deliveries, trucks were dropping off Model 3s. Speaking to local sales staff, they said demand had been really picking up, which is good news for Australia, that has been really behind in EV adoption compared to other Western countries. But things could be changing now that the Model 3s have arrived. To try and work out some numbers, I actually asked the truck driver to see how many cars he was delivering, and this is what he said. You dropping off a lot of these cars? 9 loads. 9 loads?
No, 9 cars.
Ah, okay. So about 9 per day from this delivery centre in Melbourne. It'll be interesting to see what the figures will be for Australia in the month of September, and we hope to bring those numbers to you in the next episode. So let's combine all these numbers and see what we get. In total, Tesla is up 4,634 vehicles in Q3 after the first 2 months of the quarter compared to the same time in Q2. This doesn't mean that they'll hit a new record, but it does put them in a strong position going into September. Keep in mind, there are many other smaller countries that we do not have sales numbers for, and we are still waiting on Chinese Model 3 sales numbers from the month of August. So while the total number is incomplete, it does still give us an idea of how some markets have been performing thus far in Q3. So that sums up the numbers from August. And as you might have noticed, we have changed the name of the channel from the Tesla stock channel to the EV stock channel. And the reason is, after speaking to a number of people, the #1 feedback we have received is to expand our episodes and analysis to cover more of the EV market, which we think is a great idea, and we're happy to do so. We will still be focusing the majority of our content around Tesla, but we'll also expand our research to cover other EV manufacturers and the global transition away from fossil fuels. So all in all, a lot of content is being worked on. And finally, a huge shout out to Doug and Neil, along with the rest of our Patreons, that support the channel. Your support and feedback has been invaluable, so a big thank you. And Neil, I'll be starting to work on your video idea in a few days' time, as soon as we release a new episode in the coming days. So until next time, be safe, and I'll see you guys soon.